So the 1932 rocker, we're doing a couple of things to refine the ride and the quality of the car. So we've got the car up in the air. We've already pulled the motor and transmission. You can kind of, see some of the detail I got going on back here with everything. We had an oil leak that kept happening, and it was misdiagnosed as a rear main seal. In fact, what it was the rear seal on the intake had come out just a little bit. Probably when installation was going in, it slipped just a smidgen. So oil was running down the back of the motor, so it was misdiagnosed as a rear main seal. Well, we replaced the rear main seal, the oil pan gasket, changed the oil and everything, still had the leak, so obviously it wasn't that. So we pulled the motor out, and there it is, the intake gasket. You can clearly see it with the motor out of the car. The reason we pulled the motor out is because I have a 3000 stall converter in this car, so it's got that real snatch when you go to take off. But it's a 3000 stall, and it's miserable to drive around town because you have to get it to 3000 just to move. So I ordered a flash stall. The way a flash stall works is under normal load conditions, it will act just like a normal 1200 RPM stall converter. So as you step on the gas, the car begins to move. Say about 900 to 1000 RPM, the car begins to move. If you floor it, it's going to break away, go to 3000 RPM or 3000 stall, and then the car is just going to scream from there on. So it's a really good thing to add to your build. It's called a flash stall. It's a little bit more money, but not much more than a 3000 stall. And so we're installing that, and like I said, that's where we found our oil leak. So stay tuned to this build, 32 rocker. So when you build a show car, you like a lot of bling. I'm just like a macaw or a barracuda. I like the shiny stuff. So I've got all these shiny polished billet aluminum parts to go on there. We go with the old sand cast look for that car, it kind of goes with the vibe. But polished intake, polished alternator, hell, there's a polished compressor still in the car, and these brackets. But you can see one bit of water gets on these brackets, and they get this finish on it, kind of a, I don't know, water spots. And so all that has to be polished before it goes back on the car. So, I mean, this is a lot of the work that goes into the car when we put it back together. Parts get painted when they go back on, parts get polished when they go back on. That's what we do here, We take a part off, it gets cleaned up before it goes back on. So, just showing you some of the little details. Alright, here we are with Gus. Gus has got its LS motor put in there. We had to set it back several inches. Originally it was sitting, the back of the motor was probably about 6 inches away from the firewall. So we remanufactured the brackets. Kind of what came with the motor and what came with the kit, the code 504, to get the motor set back. Now we're within 1 inch of the firewall, so it's good clearance. It sets the motor really far back in the chassis, so we've got good clearance of the radiator. The front end's on, everything's looking good. We had to modify the transmission mount because it's got the 4L60 on it, so it had to move the motor back with that too. Transmission back, so we had to move a transmission mount back. They're squaring up the bed behind me. Mark over here, if you'll turn this way, Mark is fabricating some floorboard. This will encompass the transmission, the size of the transmission, where it comes up to the bell housing. The original floor, you got that there. Not only is it rusty, but it's got access points for the master cylinder, the battery, I don't even know what the center, probably the shifter, and then the floorboard where the gas pedal is even has access for the starter pedal. So we're going to reproduce these and put them in there, probably do a little bead rolling, and like I said, a round area for the bell housing. So stay tuned to Gus, it's moving along. Something that you have to consider when you're putting together the bed and the fenders and lengthening the bed is the running boards are a key factor because they bolt to the front fender, they bolt to the rear fender. The kit, the code 504, comes with the first 2 brackets of 3. So we had to make a 3rd bracket, and this one has to work in conjunction with the leaf spring, so it has to come out just a little bit and then come down and across. So we used the old bracket and then manufactured a mount for it, so this is what we're using for the third bracket. So you're wanting to put a hitch on your classic car. They don't really make hitches for classic cars. You know, there might be some, you know, mainstream cars that might have some, but when you're looking for like a 64 Galaxie, there's not really a hitch available. So I went to this company, HITCH, and I've got this expandable hitch. So it went in and expands on top of the frame, actually behind the bumper. And, you know, everything bolts in. There's little slots here so the bolts can slide. Hitch bolted in pretty nicely. We've added an extra piece on the bottom side of the frame, so we got one on top, one on the bottom. So it's bolted on pretty nice, so I'll be able to pull my boat. So if you want to do this yourself, you can go online, Craigslist, and you can get a hitch. There's all kinds. This one's expandable. It's a class 3 hitch, so it's capable of 5,000 pounds. I'm sure my car is not going to pull 5,000 pounds. So really nice hitch, easy to install, really straightforward. I went down to O'Reilly's and I got a trailer plug and just wired into the tail lights, as you know, just the wiring states. So pretty easy job, straightforward. You can do this at home. You could pay U-Haul to do it. I'm sure you could have a shop like this do it for you, but it's possible. You can get this done for your classic car, so you can pull around your classic trailer or your classic boat. Keep them on the road. Headlights in these older cars, they don't give a lot of brightness. So we're going to switch out these old halogen bulbs to a new lens that allows for an LED light to go in the back of it. So this brand is a C6 LED bulb. It's got high beams and low beams, and they'll look just like the factory H4 lights. In fact, they even say H4 on them. So I'll show you what the headlights look like. So you can kind of see it's not very bright. So wait till we get these installed and we'll show you again. So you can see these cast a yellow kind of light, and the new LEDs cast a 6,000 Kelvin light. So it's kind of a whiter light. It's much brighter. I'll be able to see at night much clearer. I think it's 3,200 lumens. They're all in, high beam. So pretty good. All right. You remember from the original chassis, it had this big bus bumper. So we mounted this bus bumper to the bumper brackets that came in the code 504. So we're getting that to fit onto the truck. I wanted to fit a little bit tighter and maybe a little bit higher, so we're going to relocate the lights. We're going to try to bring this up where it sits where the bumper should sit, maybe bring it in a little bit. We're going to have to make some concession, you know, so it doesn't actually rub here and there. But the bumper fits the truck really nice. It's got a nice shape to it, so we might make a filler panel that fills in that little gap there. But stay tuned and watch how that comes along.
We already had the floor for Gus, as you've seen earlier, it wasn't that good. So I went ahead and made a new piece, re-rolled it. So I'm going to cut this section out and weld this one back in.